Countries across the world are toughening restrictions to contain the spread of a new COVID-19 variant known as B.1.1.529, after the World Health Organization, WHO, declared the strain, also called the Omicron variant, a variant of concern, after an emergency meeting held on Friday. The B.1.1.529 variant was first reported to the WHO by South Africa on November 24, and the first known confirmed B.1.1.529 infection was from a specimen collected on November 9, the WHO said in its statement. Currently, the number of cases of this variant appears to be rising in almost all provinces in South Africa, according to local reports. The new variant has been detected in Botswana and among travelers in Hong Kong and Israel, featuring unusual alterations that are concerning since they may let it evade the immune system and become more transmissible. Infectious disease experts warn it could thus reduce the efficacy of existing vaccines. The European Union (EU) member states agreed to introduce rapidly restrictions on all travel into the EU from 7 countries in the Southern Africa region: Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Mozambique, Namibia, South Africa, Zimbabwe, said European Commission spokesman Eric Mamer via Twitter on Saturday. This came hours after the Commission said the EU wanted to activate the so-called emergency brake to stop air travel from the Southern African region to delay the spread in Europe of the new COVID-19 variant. The European Commission will propose, in close coordination with member states, to activate the emergency brake to stop air travel from the Southern African region due to the variant of concern B.1.1.529, Commission President Ursula von der Leyen tweeted on Friday. The EU's emergency brake is a tool that allows the bloc to temporarily suspend travel if the epidemiological situation of a third country or region worsens quickly, in particular if a virus, variant of concern or of interest has been detected. B.1.1.529 was confirmed in Belgium, Belgian Minister of Health and Social Affairs Frank Vandenbroek said on Friday. Belgium decided on Friday to suspend flights from the Southern African region, following the proposal from the European Commission. Belgian travelers returning from South Africa and other nearby countries must adhere to a 10-day quarantine. Germany declared South Africa as a virus variant area on Friday. From Friday night local time, airlines will only be allowed to fly German nationals and permanent residents from South Africa. In addition, all passengers, including fully vaccinated people, will have to quarantine for 14 days after entering Germany from South Africa. Britain has also banned flights from the southern African countries. The Israeli Ministry of Health on Friday also reported a first case of the new heavily mutated COVID-19 variant. The strain was discovered in a genomic sequencing test from an Israeli who returned from Malawi, the ministry noted. On Thursday night, Israel announced a ban on entry of travelers from 7 African countries following the detection of the variant in South Africa. Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett and Health Minister Nitzan Horowitz thus decided to list South Africa, Lesotho, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Namibia, and Eswatini as red countries. Jordan announced that starting from November 28, it will impose entry restrictions on people with travel history to any of the above-mentioned 7 southern African countries. Non-Jordanian citizens with travel history to any of the above countries will only be allowed entry if they spend 14 days outside those countries in a third country and obtain negative nucleic acid test results. Jordanian citizens are allowed to enter the country, but are subject to 14 days of mandatory quarantine at their own cost. Japan also tightened restrictions on travelers from 6 African countries after the discovery of the new COVID-19 variant in South Africa. Starting Saturday, travelers who have recently been to Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Namibia, South Africa, or Zimbabwe will have a required 10-day quarantine period in a government-designated facility upon their arrivals, Chief Cabinet Secretary Hirokazu Matsuno announced at a press conference. Malaysia's health ministry announced on Friday that it will ban travelers from the 7 African countries. Citizens and foreigners with permanent resident status will be allowed to return, but they will be quarantined. Malaysia also banned its citizens from traveling to the 7 countries. The Philippines imposed travel restrictions on travelers from South Africa, Botswana, and their neighboring countries, effective immediately, due to concerns over the new COVID-19 variant, a government official said on Friday. Cabinet Secretary and presidential spokesperson Carlo Nograles said the government's interagency COVID-19 task force approved Friday night the temporary suspension of inbound international flights from South Africa, Botswana, and Namibia, among others. Passengers coming from or having been to these countries within the last 14 days prior to arrival shall be temporarily barred from entering the Philippines, Nograles said, adding the ban will stay until December 15. Brazil's health regulatory agency, Anvisa, on Friday issued technical guidance advising the government to restrict commercial flights and personnel movements between Brazil and some African countries in a bid to combat the spread of the new variant. According to the guidance, the African countries subject to the restrictions will include South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, and Zimbabwe among a total of 6 countries. The agency also made another recommendation to the Brazilian government on Friday, requiring all travelers entering Brazil to present proof of COVID-19 vaccination.